Yeah, talking about the diseases and evil curses, what we have next is our speaker Mikko Lähdetie. He is doing from the company Finsect, and he is one of the first in Finland to actually introduce crickets in our diet these days, and how cricket became a kind of a dietary option in Finland, I believe.
You believe correct. Yeah. So do you hear me?
Speak out quite loudly.
Do you get my presentation up there?
Ah, sorry.
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, my name is Mikko Lähdetie and I come from Finsect, who is a organization that grows at the moment house crickets. But we also plan to do other insects in the future. My background is actually that I'm from a small farm near from Turku, and I've grown there all my life, so I know about the agricultural side. Then I decided to go to the university in Helsinki here, and I became an agronomist. After that, for some reason, I ended up not doing anything related to agriculture, but I ended up in the food industry and worked for about 7 years for a quite famous company called Raisio here in Finland. I sold Elovena, which is the second renowned food brand in the whole of Finland, and other of their products. And then I traveled quite a bit throughout the world in my job, and I got tired of it once I got my first kid with my wife, and I decided to start my own company. So about 4 years ago I started my own company with 2 friends of mine, and I'm working still in the food industry. So we do some import of different kind of foods, and also do our own stuff. And how I got into insects was actually Antti, who was supposed to come here today but couldn't make it because he's in Canada. Once introduced me to this insect, and he said that, Mikko, you're so good in this food business that we have to start doing insects. I was like, no, never. And the never was next day I called Antti that I googled a bit, and actually it's not that bad. And that's how I got into this insect business. And Finsect, so what we do actually 2 different things, but you're going to hear out of that soon. But it's so we do decentralized insect farming all over Finland, mostly in the western part of Finland. We have currently about 20 growers, and we can do quite a bit of Finnish insects at the moment already. Actually, we do already a bit too much, but that's I think we're gonna solve that problem pretty soon. We are a group of currently we're 9 people that are in the company. Antti and then Lauri, who's on the picture, are mostly operative and doing most of the stuff, and the others are just helping and supporting as much as we can during as part of our other jobs. And the reason why we have started this is that we actually believe that crickets and insects can do a difference in the whole food system. It can't, revolutionize it, but it can be the part of the change that we need to do in the future. So founded in 2015, I actually came from the other company, not Finsect. With Antti we started this Greensect, which was about making insect foods, not growing them. But then in the beginning of this year we decided that we actually merged with Finsect because it's smart to also know how we do this, grow the insects and how we put it in the products, and we have secure supply of the raw material always, because at some point it was really hard to get any kind of good quality raw materials from the market. So we decided that it's smart to put these 2 good companies together. And that's what we are now. So we have two sides. We have Finsect and Greedy. And Greedy is the foods side that we do. And yeah, this is I'll tell you about why we do this. And this is probably the most interesting part for you in this presentation. If you have any questions here in the middle, please interrupt me. I don't mind. So why? So here we go. First of all, it's about, we already talked about how much do we need cultivated area for agriculture, and we should be making more food with the area that we have currently. Yeah, that's true, but we can also kind of like think that should we not do something with the land? Like what's the big problem at the moment in the world is that most of the grains and soy and maize that we do actually goes into feed, and it doesn't come directly into our stomachs. And that's a huge problem that we just simply especially in the Western modern world, we eat too much of meat. And yes, it maybe sounds bad, but yes, every one of us, if you're not vegan, eats too much meat. And actually you should feel a bit bad about that. So one thing is that, okay, the veggies is the best option, but actually when it comes to these animal-based proteins, crickets are the most efficient one, and it won't replace all of this, but it's a move into the better direction. And also, water. That's going to be a very, very scarce resource at some point of time. So crickets actually are very modest and don't basically need any water. They still need something, but in terms of how much they produce protein, they need very little water compared to the other animals.
Just curious, are crickets special? So are there similar differences between different insects as there are animals, or is cricket like the best?
Well, I'm not the specialist in this, but all insects are quite modest. This is only an example out of crickets, how they work, but all insects are very modest in terms of how much they use resources. Of course, there might be some, I don't know about scorpions or spiders or those, how they act, but overall, like worms and crickets are very modest in terms of how much they need resources to grow protein to us.
I have a question. There is no time dimension with those kilograms. So is it like you need that for 1 kilo? How much time does it take to grow those on those areas?
That's a good point.
Because I cannot
you can't
get
measure
any idea about you can grow 1 kilo in 1 year if you grow beef, and then 1 kilo in 6 weeks if you grow crickets. Then they are not comparable.
Yeah, but I would assume that it takes into account that to grow beef, it takes about 2 years before you can slaughter it. And that's one of the reasons why it takes so much water, is that during those 2 years, it drinks many tens of liters of water every day. And crickets, it's only about...
I'm talking about the area.
It's generally in those kind of calculations, it's the area required per year.
Okay.
So
well, I have to check that. How is this actually calculated?
But then of course, like so in this, what I was wondering, like, do you know what's the source of the feed in those figures for crickets? Because the land area and also the water requirement and the greenhouse gas emissions as well, they depend a lot what's the feed.
Well, usually it's grains, beans. It can be soybeans or Finnish broad beans or peas.
Yeah, because
but this calculation is not our own, so this is probably based on soybeans.
yeah, because I guess at the moment most of the insects get similar feed than what is fed for poultry.
Yes, they do.
But then if they use some kind of waste materials from food industry, then the area requirements and the environmental impacts in general can be even much lower.
Yes, that is true. That if you kind of have this closed circulation system, that you use what is left from somewhere else. We do also that for our farms. We use Class B vegetables and also something from bakeries too. But we still use regular also this poultry type of feed for our own house crickets.
As you have here all these like animal protein choices, you still don't have like the vegetable choice in this?
No, but it would be the best.
So why didn't you start a business with beans or something?
Well, I'm actually myself, I'm in that business as well. But this is, but yeah, it's as I said, so vegetable-based foods are the best option, of course, for us in terms of environment. But if we compare insects to other animal-based, then crickets, for example, or worms, is a very good option to replace part of your diet for these. And I apologize. I have to check these measures again. I haven't done them, so I'm not sure how they have been calculated. But I will share you that information once I have them there. But mainly the point is that it's more efficient to grow insects than, for example, chicken, pork, or beef. Here we probably have the same problems, but anyhow, the same message comes through here that it needs a lot less feed to grow 1 kilo of protein out of crickets or the whole cricket, and how much the average greenhouse emissions are per 1 kilo produced protein. And then that most of the cricket is edible, for example, and the same goes with many other insects.
Question.
Yes.
We were eating whole crickets there, so what is that 20% we did not get?
It's the wings, and then these horns and stuff like, and legs. You can still eat them, but it's not very resourceful, part of the cricket. You can eat it, but it's basically nothing that you need out of it. So it's the big part of that is the most important part that has all the nutrients. And then what is interesting about, for example, crickets is that it's actually quite rich in calcium, and it has different kind of naturally rich in different kind of B vitamins, for example. And then what is, I think, most interesting about these slides is that here in Europe we don't eat any insects, but 80% of the world's population or people where they live, in some way, they have insects in their diet, and we don't. And that's why we have started to solve this problem by ourselves. Is that we're trying to now have started to create different kind of foods that we would make it a gastronomic kind of experience for people, because it's not only that you save the world with these, but it has to be good, because no one buys anything that tastes bad. That's a fact. Some people do, but that's maybe a 0.1% of the people that can actually eat bad food. So to kind of make a change, we're working on different kind of products that would be easy for people to get into part of their weekly diet, for example. So you can taste there outside our different kind of products that we have. We have, for example, this is coming up, but it's on the table there, so whole roasted crickets. Also, we have a Canadian version that we're selling. Then cricket crackers, which was our first product and has been actually quite successful. And then we're bringing out our limited edition Christmas version out of it. But what's then other interesting part about this is what are the biggest challenges in insect foods? Does anyone know?
Prejudice.
Okay. Anything else?
Getting people to eat it.
Yeah. Anything else? Have you noticed something on the market?
Price perhaps.
Yeah. I think those are the two most important things. It's this, you know. Insects. So for us it's okay to kill an animal, but then it's very hard to eat a small insect. So that's kind of the problem that we have. And actually they taste very good, and the taste is very mild. However, for some reason, this is the reaction for most of the people at the moment. It's like, oh, I can't even touch that. So this is our biggest obstacle at the moment at the market, that why don't kind of insect foods go into people's diet? It's scary. And the other one is this. For example, here in Ruohonjuuri we have 40 grams of whole roasted crickets at 11 euros. So that's another barrier that is on the market that needs to be solved hopefully quite soon because it's a big barrier, because you know most of the time to buy something every day or weekly or even monthly, it has to be affordable. And at the moment, unfortunately, insects are not yet that affordable, especially the Finnish grown ones. It's still fairly expensive, and we see that as a major barrier. And I'm saying, I'll say in the end, and then you can ask. I think the problem here is in the supply chain overall. It's not that the farmers are getting too much money or that we are earning too much money, but in the end, when the basic products that everybody earns even a bit, and all the costs that comes in between are quite high, and then we have this system in our modern retail is that they need a margin percentage, not per euro. So if you hit a 50% margin for that at store level, so it's like, okay, well that's very nice, you get 5 euros out of it. What about what about the other product that you're selling with 1 euro and you're getting 50 euro cents out of it? Why can't you sell this with a 50 euro cent margin? So it's kind of a barrier when the system works well with percentage and the scale is still small. So this is where we end up to. But this is a thing that at our end we need to be more efficient to have the prices lower. And then we hope that at some point the retail also starts to understand that multiplying every price is not the way to do kind of pricing for products to actually be part of a change. So being a part of a change, I'm not now saying that Ruohonjuuri is doing this, but it goes into every retailer in this country that they kind of outprice expensive products even more by their own system. And that makes it very, very difficult to kind of do change if not everybody's with it or part of that change. Please.
This may be a company secret or a sensitive question, but considering the prices, do you think that you have already like dozens or hundreds of repetitive customers that use like every month so high-priced crickets in their meals?
Well, we don't have any consumer studies about that, or we don't know the awareness of our brand or the how many users we have, or light users or heavy users. So we don't have any information about that. What we know is, and this is kind of a company secret, but I tell it anyway. What we know is that the group that is interested about the crickets is not interested about buying this very complex kind of an insect food. What they are interested in buying is a simple kind of a whole cricket and making it themselves after that. You know, being creative with it. And at the moment, I would say that these very like modern type of food that are highly technical and so on are actually targeted off the core target group that is at the moment interested in this stuff. Goes into this Pertti who is living in probably in Nurmes, so he's not interested in eating that. So that's kind of going off the target with those. I like the innovations are good, but I think that the market is not ready for that kind of heavy innovations yet, because the target group that is interested is more interested about these than they are about very complicated, ready-to-eat cricket products. And that's kind of a secret, which you probably knew or didn't know, but now you know it.
So they buy regularly?
Yes, they do.
Some of them.
This product, for example, moves very well,
Yeah.
as well as our crackers. So, and this, but this I can say that this moves better, much better. So it's definitely so that at the moment the people who are interested in this are interested about the whole stuff and not about it being shattered into a bread as a powder or something like that.
Are you selling at a global level or is it just in the Nordics?
No, but we're heading there.
Have you got any idea like what markets are taking this up faster than others?
Well, in Europe we have, is it 5 markets? You should know, 5 markets that have legalized this.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like us, the Netherlands and Belgium, UK, France?
In Austria, I have some.
Austria, yes, Austria. So those are legalized, and US and Canada is open. But in the beginning of next year, we are again waiting for some new markets to open. So of course we're looking to Sweden because it's very close to us. Norway is actually open, but there the problem with expensive products is that there are these called custom duties that increase the price even further. So yeah, but we're definitely looking outside.
But do you feel that one market's more progressive than the other, for instance?
Well, I think the most progressed markets are US, UK and Canada. In the modern world, I don't really know about Asia, Africa, South America or those. I have no idea. They are probably the most progressed, but if they sell insects, they probably sell it at the marketplace and not in a modern retail store.
And if you go to Estonia, they are running away. If you or Russia.
Yeah, but kind of then to close this up, this is what Antti said I have to say. So how can you be part of the change in this? So it's, don't be afraid of it, first of all. And if you can afford it, buy it sometimes. And this is a very good opening for example, if you have guests coming in. So do something out of crickets. Make a simple starter with whole roasted crickets or something like that. It's you get so great conversations and you're gonna laugh your guts out when you see somebody eating crickets for the first time. So kind of being part of the change is kind of buy it yourself, try it yourself, and then introduce your closest friend to it. And there we have this change going on, and probably at some point of time we have a kind of a scale that the prices will come down step by step, and we make this more affordable and part of like not maybe everyday diet but weekly or monthly diet. Thank you. And if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I'm still curious about this pricing thing, that maybe some of it is secret, but we will tell it anyway. So I've been wondering that, with let's say minced meat substitutes like this vegetable paste, to me it always seems that somehow the price seems to be anchored by the meat price. That it seems that, okay, you have a minced meat price and then you add something to it because these consumers are not that sensitive. So how much do you know is this going on, and how much is it about like production cost actually?
Oh yeah. Well, if we compare to Härkis and for example this so-called Nyhtis, so I believe that the raw material cost should be less than with meat. It should be less. Although I don't know because I'm not in that industry directly. However, I believe that the processing costs are much higher at the moment. It's a hyped food, but the volumes are still so small. So the processing cost, because it's actually if you try to do that type of a food at home with the information that they give you as a food technologist, somebody would probably understand what they do. If you try to do that, it's actually quite it takes quite a bit of time to get that structure into that food. So it's not that easy. And when you start thinking that how it goes into a factory, so it's the processing cost that increase it. And still, these companies, both Härkis and Nyhtis, so they don't seem to be very profitable yet. So it's still they have a big challenge still ahead of them, like we do.
One more, and then we need to continue.
I want to ask about taste, because like you said, nobody buys anything that tastes bad, and I have an experience which was not very good.
With insects?
With the first time I tasted crickets.
Okay.
The cricket was all right, but there was an aftertaste for one cricket, and this aftertaste lasted for about an hour, and it was disgusting.
Well, what kind of was it?
From Kreka,
Okay.
maybe.
That was at Turku University.
Okay, hard to say. I haven't had that experience. I'm very sorry that you have had it. As a plain cricket, it's like a very, very mild element, or you could even say that it's close to cardboard. So, but if you spice it up, out there you can, for example, taste salted whole roasted cricket. So we have salted it before we roast it. So it actually brings a lot of flavor to it and improves the flavor. But there, of course, it's also that normal about this, how people get used to new type of foods. You need to taste it like 20 times before you have adopted it in part of your to your taste buds, that it accepts it without any kind of what's the word, suspicion kind of like thing. Yeah, but yeah, it could have been already spoiled. I don't know.
Something was wrong, because there were several of us.
Okay.
And we all felt the same. But the second time was all right. No bad aftertaste.
Okay, I really need to cut the discussions. Thank you for being very active. We have a bit tight schedule today, so we want to keep it short, and we need to be out of the room at 4 o'clock, so we don't have that much time to play. But thank you, Mikko.
Thank you.
The microphone.
Oh, I thought.